Everyone in Willow Creek knew Eleanor Whitmore, the kind, quiet widow with silver hair always pinned in a bun and a smile warm enough to make you forget how cold the northern winds could get in Vermont. After her husband, Henry, passed in '95, she never remarried. Instead, she spent her time tending to her garden, baking for the church potlucks, and knitting scarves for the local orphanage. She was the kind of woman who, people said, belonged to a different time, a softer, slower world. So when the first body turned up behind the old mill, no one even whispered her name. The victim, Carson Hill, was a drifter, found with his skull caved in, wallet missing, and no family to claim the remains. Sheriff Tomlinson chalked it up to a drunken brawl. Willow Creek hadn't seen real crime in years, but Carson wasn't the last. 3 months later, 21-year-old Rachel Carter vanished. Her abandoned car was found by the forest road, keys still in the ignition, blood smeared on the steering wheel. She was a waitress at a diner Eleanor often visited. This time the town flinched. Rumors began to swirl of a killer stalking the woods, of the land itself being cursed. But never Eleanor, not until the letter arrived. It was delivered anonymously to the sheriff's office. No return address. Inside, a black and white photo of Eleanor Whitmore, 20 years younger, standing beside a man who wasn't Henry. Behind them, a house that had burned down in 1983, scrawled in shaky handwriting, "She's done this before." Sheriff Tomlinson, a man nearing retirement who'd known Eleanor his whole life, didn't know what to make of it. But protocol demanded he investigate. He showed up at her door that afternoon, notepad in hand, guilt on his face. Eleanor greeted him with tea and cookies. "Just a few questions," he said awkwardly. "Of course, dear," she replied, as if he'd stopped by for a Sunday chat. When he showed her the photograph, her smile faltered. "That was a long time ago," she said. "Before Henry. His name was Andrew. It ended badly." "Ended how?" the sheriff asked. "He died," she said simply, pouring more tea. Tomlinson asked around. Old newspaper archives showed that Andrew Collins had indeed died in a house fire in Montpelier in 1983. Accidental. Eleanor was never charged. No one looked too closely back then. But now the sheriff's instincts were screaming. That night, he ordered a quiet search of Eleanor's property. A deputy, new kid, fresh out of academy, found something behind the garden shed. A metal door buried under leaves and dirt. A storm cellar. Not uncommon in Vermont, but this one was locked from the outside. When they pried it open, the smell hit them first. Then came the shock. 3 bodies, stacked like firewood, partially decomposed, 1 female, 2 male. All had blunt force trauma to the head. Items belonging to the victims were found nearby. Rachel's necklace, Carson's belt buckle, a college ID from a missing student in 2020 who'd been dismissed as a runaway. By dawn, Eleanor Whitmore was in custody. The interrogation room was silent. Eleanor, now in a beige prison-issued jumpsuit, looked small, grandmotherly, fragile. But her eyes were as cold as the cellar floor. "I never meant to hurt them," she said finally, "but they wouldn't leave me alone." She told them everything. Carson had been stealing from her. She caught him one night trying to siphon gas from her generator. She invited him in, gave him food. Then she hit him in the back of the head with a cast-iron skillet when he tried to grab her wallet. Rachel had been sleeping with a married man, the same man Eleanor's late husband once worked with. Eleanor found out and believed she was ruining families. So she followed her one night, lured her off the road, and attacked her with a tire iron. The student? A young man named Daniel from Boston who came knocking years ago claiming to be her nephew. A lie, it turned out. He tried to blackmail her when she refused to give him money. She panicked, one blow, then another, each act justified in her mind. Each kill an act of moral correction, defense, or righteous fury. Her confession shocked the nation. Eleanor Whitmore, the widow of Willow Creek, became a media sensation. A documentary was rushed into production. Reporters swarmed the sleepy town. The bakery sold out every day. Locals gave interviews about how they never suspected a thing, how she'd once helped find a lost dog, how she always sent thank-you notes. But behind the interviews, behind the fascination, there was something darker. Because Eleanor's story didn't start in 1995 or 1983. A deeper dig into her past revealed more. A high school in Maine, where a janitor died mysteriously in 1965, the same year Eleanor was suspended for breaking into the principal's office. A boarding house in Buffalo, New York, where two tenants disappeared a week apart in 1972. Eleanor had been renting a room at the time. Patterns. Always the same, a quiet life, a perceived slight, a sudden death, and a relocation. In the end, prosecutors believed she may have killed up to 12 people over 5 decades. Her trial was quick. The evidence from her cellar combined with her confession left no doubt. But it was her final statement that left the courtroom in stunned silence. "I never wanted to be a killer," she said, voice trembling. "But evil wears many faces. And sometimes mine was the only one that recognized it." She was sentenced to life in prison without parole. 3 months into her sentence, Eleanor Whitmore died in her sleep. Natural causes. She was 71, but in the cell where she passed, guards found a journal, neatly written in blue ink, a memoir of sorts. In it, she described each murder in chilling detail, her reasoning, her justifications, her regrets. If they could be called that, and on the last page, a single line: "Justice isn't always found in the courtroom. Sometimes it lives in the hands of the forgotten."